gold currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is March 20th, 2014. Tonight's edition, I am proud to bring to the airwaves a very, very powerful lady who in just a few short minutes I'm going to play an interview I did with a few days ago off air. And I promise you by the end of the interview tonight, you will be blown away by the love that she has for her son. She's just an amazing lady, and she's an inspiration to others. So what's the topic about tonight? Well, the topic is going to be about cannabis oil saving a young child from leukemia, from cancer. And it's not just cancer that it's helping out with. It's helping out people with all sorts of ailments, diabetes, MS, stomach ailments, Crohn's, epilepsy, all sorts of cancers. I'm going to be interviewing a bunch of different mothers about this subject. Sierra said they call themselves the Cannamoms. I like that. I'm going to be giving them all their each individual 2-hour show like I am with Sierra tonight so that they can all get their stories out and that there's actually evidence, testimony to the power of what this stuff can do, and hopefully somebody will share these interviews with their loved ones, their friends, their neighbors. We need to educate people about the reality, get them past their ignorance-based fears, propaganda-based fears. It's actually not as hard as everybody thinks, and Sierra and I talk about that as well. Without wasting any more time, let's get right to my interview with Sierra Riddle about her son Landon and the amazing journey that the two of them have been on together. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'm joined by a special guest. I am pleased to introduce you to someone who I would say is in the running for Mother of the Year, at least. Her name is Sierra Riddle, and tonight I want you all to hear her story and her son's story. So without wasting any more time, I want to bring her to the airwaves. Sierra, welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me on tonight. It's been such a rough, past couple of weeks. I really do appreciate you giving us the time to share our story and, to share stories of some of the other amazing moms that we've met along our journey as well.
It's an honor to talk to you. I've seen what you've been through and fighting for your son. Just from the past couple months I've seen, and I'm sure it's, obviously it's been going on much longer than that, but from what I've seen, you're an amazing lady and amazing mom. And it's an honor to be able to talk to you, and it's really awesome. The love that you have for your son, you're willing to move mountains for the child. I think more parents could take a note in their parenting playbook from you. So I want to give you as much time as you need. Let's start off from the very beginning with your story, wherever you want to pick it up. Tell me about what you've been through, when Landon was diagnosed, and then what started you on your journey to looking into things other than chemo to help cure him of his ailment.
Landon was diagnosed with T-cell ALL leukemia on September 30th, 2012. He was only 2.5 years old at the time. He was given a 8 to 10% chance to live 24 to 48 hours. The cancer was being produced so fast in his body. At the time, I didn't know anything about cannabis and cancer, what it could do to help with the side effects of chemo. And we were never afforded that information. Nobody ever told us that there was a safer alternative out there. Instead, we were promptly handed prescriptions of liquid morphine, Oxycontin, oxycodone, and meant to start chemo. And Landon did fairly well through the first 30 days of it. He really showed us his fighting spirit in those first 30 days. Because like I said, he was, given a 24 to 48 hour expiration date. Once Landon passed that 30-day mark, however, he became very ill. He could no longer eat. He was vomiting anywhere from 30 to 50 times a day. He was in extreme pain. He was having extreme psychological issues because of the chemotherapies. Losing weight, it was terrible. By 3 months, Landon was dying, and not from cancer at this point anymore. Landon was already, in remission. Landon was dying from chemotherapy. No matter what we told them was going on with Landon, always their answer was, well, we'll just increase his pain medication. We'll just increase his appetite medication or his anxiety medication. They never listened to us. They never allowed Landon to be an individual child battling cancer. He was just supposed to fit into the pool of children battling leukemia. That's it. All the children out there are placed into this box that they're supposed to fit into of the protocol. And my son didn't. He did not do well with the chemotherapies. So by December, my mother and I were looking into alternatives, something that would save Landon's life and just get him through the chemotherapy. Because no matter how ill he got, they still were pumping it in him every chance that they could get. At this point, it was every 6 days. They never gave him a break unless he was literally knocking on death's door with a 0, white blood cell count, no platelets, no red blood. He was needing anywhere from 15 to 30 blood and platelet transfusions per month because of the chemotherapies. He underwent radiation. And during that time, me and my mother and Landon had to stay in a hotel for 25 days for him to be able to do radiation. Like I said, we were never told anything, even during some of Landon's darkest times. We were never told, hey, have you guys thought about trying cannabis? It'll help him with all of these ailments, help his appetite. He won't have these psychological issues from the high doses of, narcotics. Nothing. So by December, Landon's dying and we're looking for something. Through a series of just random events and people passing along information, we heard about cannabis and what it was doing for people with cancer. So my mother really did her due diligence, and she put in over 1,000 hours of research on what cannabis could do for cancer, specifically leukemia. And it looked pretty good. There was no other children being treated solely with it, but we did hear of Brave Michaela, who was using cannabis in conjunction with chemo and still is, and she was doing very well. So we had high hopes. From that point, we were given another series of phone numbers and doctors, and we came to the Stanleys. And the Stanleys were so kind to us and so caring, and came to Utah because Landon was not stable enough at the time. and really just talked to us about, not only Charlotte's Web, but their high THC strains as well, which would, be a part of Landon's treatment plan. They were very honest with us that they had done their research and they could find no children that have ever, beat leukemia with cannabis. And so it was, it was really a faith thing. We just prayed about it and talked about it as a family and decided, one day it was just like there it was, like it was time. We were already in Salt Lake, and so we just continued driving over the mountain and came all the way to the spring. This was in January. Landon had his first dose of cannabis oil in January. People think that it's a miracle and that it happens overnight. That is not true at all. Landon, it took up to 4 weeks, 3.5, 4 weeks for us to see signs of improvement. Now, we did see, more restful sleep. He was no longer having night terrors. His pain seemed to decrease. But as far as, blood work or anything like that, we didn't see, any real results. So about 2 weeks into it, of Charlotte's Web, we started him on Charlotte's Web first. We decided to introduce the THC. Landon did very well once we introduced the THC, and in fact, within 2 weeks of, getting a good dose, which took me about a week and a half, within 2 weeks of that, I was able to wean Landon off of all of his narcotics with no withdrawals, no anything, which is pretty remarkable considering the amount he was on, how many times a day he was taking it. They told us that it would take up to 2 years to wean him off of those heavily addicting medications. And Landon sailed through it in 2 weeks. He was off of the oxy and the morphine and everything. It was an instant transformation once we got those narcotics out of him. His mind became clearer. He was still having chemotherapy, but he was just more aware. He was there. He could talk to us and was able to eat more and drink. And, he still had rough times past that. Obviously, the damage had already been done to his body. There was times that I would have to dose him 20 times a day because he would throw up 19 of them. But I kept on and, did everything that I could to get it into him. And sure enough, eventually, after a good 2 solid months, he started to heal. That's when we really started seeing things on his blood work that the doctors were shocked that he only needed 1 or 2 blood and platelet transfusions, whereas he was having to have 15 up to 30. And now he was needing 1 or 2. And they really had no explanation for it. We didn't either until we started really looking more and obviously seeing more weekly results from Landon. From the time he started a high dose of THC and CBD oil, Landon has never needed another blood or platelet transfusion. He started being able to walk again. The chemotherapy robbed him of his ability to walk. He had such bad neuropathy that he couldn't take 5 steps without breaking down in just painful tears. And Landon now has full regeneration. I mean, it's amazing. And he has for quite some time. Again, they told us that would take up to a year of, intense physical therapy to regenerate those nerves and reflexes. And we did it with cannabis only, no additional exercise, and in about 3 months, Landon was back to 100% regeneration. So there were so many things that we started seeing that it was helping Landon with, that when Landon finished intense chemo in mid-May, I decided to take him off of chemo, that he didn't need to do the rest of the 3 years of maintenance therapy. So I took him off chemotherapy and continued the cannabis, of course, and we decided that now was the time to make our full-time move to Colorado. So we packed up our stuff and moved out here. We got here in August, met with his new doctors here, and, I really thought, considering where the state's at, just in their progression with cannabis, that it was going to go a lot differently. Well, they were just very shocked and angry that I had taken Landon off of chemotherapy. They said that I was sentencing my child to die, that if he didn't have that chemotherapy, he would indefinitely relapse and that he would die from it. And they then proceeded to report me to CPS and tell them that my son was in danger, that he needed to be removed from my care. So CPS came to my house and saw that Landon was a very happy and healthy child, that I have current blood work all the time on me that's dated within 30 days, showing that Landon is in remission. And he has been in remission for over a year now. He has not taken any maintenance chemotherapy minus the forced IV chemo. That's every 30 days, but it's a very small dose. I have not given him any of the at-home chemos that he's supposed to have every day for 10 months, and he's still in remission. He's still doing very well. He is healthier than most children that have never had cancer, and he's just above and beyond what cancer patients and the phase of treatment that he's in. He's just it's amazing, honestly. Like, I can't even put it into words. Landon and I have been fighting for his rights, that he should not have to be, poisoned for the next 3 years of his life just because that's what their treatment calls for. We had a huge meeting with CPS and our lawyers and the hospital and their lawyers, and Dr. Bob Malamud was so kind enough to join us, and it was terrible. They were really trying to convince CPS that, Landon had to have this chemotherapy for the next 3 years, that it was vital to his life. And they went as far as to say that they guaranteed them that Landon would not make it without a relapse past 4 to 6 months of no maintenance chemotherapy. And well, here we are at 10 months. It'll be 11 months coming up very shortly now. So obviously there is more to cannabis and leukemia than what we've all been led to believe. And obviously there's a huge disservice going on to all of these parents that their children are, unfortunately diagnosed with cancer. Not only are they now fighting for their lives, but now they're being fed every hour on the hour very dangerous narcotics. They are making our children drug addicts. They are giving our children so many more issues that they have to deal with aside from fighting cancer when they know that cannabis is out there. That's kind of been our mission now, is that we're determined to share with anybody that's willing to listen that cannabis not only cures cancer, but that if you don't, you're not comfortable with cannabis being your treatment and you still want to do chemotherapy, that it's 100% safe to use cannabis in conjunction with chemotherapy. And then you won't need the appetite stimulants or the painkillers or anything else for your child. And, really that's the end goal for us, is that no children will have to go through this on narcotics. Now, Landon and I, of course, are still going to continue to fight for his right to not have to have any more chemotherapy. But at this time, unfortunately, we have yet to find a lawyer willing to help us, willing to stand up and, file an injunction or file a lawsuit or whatever it is that I need to do to keep my son safe from these doctors that are out of control, that are on a power trip and want to poison my child for the next 3 years of his life, whether I say so or not. And obviously they've shown they're willing to go to any length to make sure that that happens. They're willing to go as far as to take my child from me and put him with complete strangers who would only, enforce their will, which is to give Landon chemotherapy every day of his life. And, it's been such a long, hard battle, but I believe that it's hopefully coming around to our side of things. It's been such a long time that Landon has not had chemotherapy that I'm hoping a court would be willing to listen to us and to, see that Landon is healthy, he remains cancer-free, and that as a person and as a human being, that Landon has the right not to be experimented on. And that's what most of these drugs are that they're giving my child, they're still in their experimental phase. And that's just not right on any level at all.
So you haven't been able to find any legal help at all? You haven't been able to find someone that would take up the legal battle for you to help you with your son in any way, shape, or form? In the beginning, when CPS contacted us, we did reach out, and Warren Edson came forward and, went to the meeting with us and has helped us on that front. But that was many months ago, and I haven't really heard from them since then, and they know that I'm looking for a lawyer to help us to file something. Obviously, they have not come forward or contacted me to say, hey, of course we'll do it for you. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But as of right now, no lawyers have come forward, just as well as no doctors have. No doctors have come forward that are willing to testify on Landon's behalf that chemotherapy is not the only treatment for cancer. Not one single doctor. We've contacted so many leading
professionals in the cannabis industry. We've contacted Dr. William Courtney, Dr. Donald Abrams in California, and, both of them told us, I'm sorry, but we can't help you. We've never treated a child with leukemia, and, there's nothing that we can do for you, pretty much. It was very discouraging, very upsetting, but, I'm just kind of weathering the storm right now and waiting to see, what the next step is. We've been blessed in so many ways through Team Landon and Offer Hope for Landon. And so now we work on helping other patients and helping other parents, answering questions and, helping people to get here and get established and get their oil. And really, I'm hoping that if we just keep doing what we're doing, that the right things will fall into place. And one day we'll be able to one day soon is what I'm hoping, we will be able to withdraw Landon from, Children's Hospital treatment. And that'll be the end of it, that they will just leave us alone and let Landon heal from the damage that they've done to him and let his mind heal from the trauma that he's experienced and just let us go on about our lives. Right now, it doesn't seem like that's their interest at all. I've been reported to CPS 5 times since we've been here, so since August. And like I said, right now we're kind of just going with the storm and seeing what happens. CPS thankfully has taken our side and has refused, all claims from and requests from Children's Hospital to initiate a court hearing. So I'm confident that Landon, the question of Landon being taken from me, I'm pretty confident right now that that is a big no because CPS is on our side. But just going through this every day and the stress of it and having to take my son in there to be crazy, and so if any lawyer would come forward that's willing to help with us or advise us on what to do, I'll file an injunction or a lawsuit myself if I have to. We just need some help and some advice on which way to go and be successful, or at least have the best chance at being successful in winning, Landon's case and his right to compassionate cancer treatment.
It's just an incredible story. It really is. And you would think that in the state that you live in, you live in Colorado, you would think that there, of all places, it's completely legal for recreational use. So you would think that they would be open-minded to the medicinal uses of it and wanting to experiment with those medicinal uses that people have been saying for a very long time exist, even though they say it's only anecdotal evidence. Well, it's only, quote-unquote, anecdotal to them because they don't consider experiments, done outside the realm of, I guess, a hospital or a quote-unquote lab to be experiments, even though technically I would say that a parent treating their child with cannabis oil, even if it's in a state that it's not legal and the child is saved by it, that's not anecdotal evidence. That's scientific proof. Okay, you could say it was anecdotal evidence if it was once or twice, but how many parents are out there now, Sierra, that are saving their children from cancer and all these other ailments with cannabis oil?
There's quite a bit of us. As far as just people who have moved to Colorado for cannabis for their children, there's over 500 of us. 2,000 people and counting on the waiting list for Charlotte's Web. Landon has been on Charlotte's Web long before there was a waiting list and before it was on CNN. So we're so happy that so many people are finding out about this and they have these stories on CNN to look at and see so that it's not them just, making the decision like we had to. We were approached by CNN back in June to be a part of the Weed documentary series with Sanjay Gupta. So, of course, we agreed to do it, and they started filming us. The first Weed documentary, I'm trying to think when it aired, I think it was in October. I found out 3 days before it aired that they had cut Landon's piece out. And nobody told me anything about it, nothing. So we were pretty upset about it, and then they said that, we're going to have it be, the Weed 2. And that you guys, we want the exclusive, and we would really appreciate if you guys don't interview with any other national station. We took it on faith and just thought that they were going to do it justice. And so, of course, we didn't. So they've been collecting all of this footage all of this time. And then just again, 8 days ago, I got an email saying that Landon's piece had been cut again and that it would not air in the Weed 2, and that they didn't know if they were going to use the footage at all or talk about cancer at all. To me, something seemed very wrong with that there's obviously a bigger hand playing the cards than what we think, because they begged me. I mean, literally begged me. I have emails and texts. I mean, just, it's ridiculous, begging me not to do any other coverage because they wanted the exclusive and that they wanted this to be a big thing for CNN. And for them to all of a sudden, last minute, just now they're not doing anything on cancer, to me that strikes me as very strange. So right now I'm in the process of trying to get that footage of Landon. It's the only professional footage of Landon while he was still ill. I'm not sure why cancer's not being addressed. It really seems that right now CBD is, sweeping the nation, and a lot of CBD-only bills are being put out there and being passed through their floor, onto the next phase, and that much closer to becoming a reality. We are so excited that all of these conservative states are speaking about cannabis for sick children. However, we find it just very wrong. I mean, there's really no other word for it, wrong, that people are writing entire legislation based on a very, very small percentage of people that need medical marijuana. There is so many people that are going to be left behind, so many children, adults, veterans, by a CBD-only bill because they need THC. And, that has just really been weighing on us. There's a team of us now, 4 months, that we have decided to go around and start supporting each other and each other's causes, but also going to events together and speaking about what cannabis is doing for our children. And one of those is Mariah Barnhart, and her daughter is Dahlia, and she has brain cancer. And me and Mariah are the only 2 cancer moms at all treating our children with cannabis in Colorado. From what I've heard, I think there's one other family, but they refuse to talk to anybody about it. They're being very on the low, and I can't blame them, honestly, after everything that I've been through. So right now it's just me and Mariah that are treating our children here. But the people that I've met over Facebook and different social media, we are not the only ones. There's a lot of people out there utilizing cannabis for their sick children, mainly battling cancer. And why it's just being kept under wraps and for whatever reason it's not being spoken about, I'm not sure, but we've got to change that. And the only reason that we're going to is if we all stand together and support each other, support each other's journeys and battles, and, just go to each state if we have to. Until people see that we're not backing down, we're not going to be quiet, and we're not going away, then, I think these bills will just keep getting pushed to the side. Until that day comes, where everyone, not just a few of us, is fed up with their children being sick and being fed dangerous drugs by Big Pharma, then nothing's going to change. And we're going to have to be forced to live in Colorado away from our family and our friends and everyone else, because everybody doesn't want to stand up and do what's right for these children, which is to not have them on pharmaceuticals. I think that's been proven time and time again, that pharmaceuticals are so damaging to the body, and especially the kind that they're giving these children that are epileptic or cancer children. I mean, can you imagine having your 2-year-old on Oxycontin for 4 years of their life?
Being a veteran myself and seeing it with my own 2 eyes, and even experiencing it to a certain degree where the VA would rather have you take, all sorts of opiates and stuff. That stuff is just horrible for you. And as an adult, it's horrific. I can only imagine what it's like for like a 4 or 5-year-old child. It's horrific. And the way they treat cancer is draconian. I want everybody to think about 20 years ago. The protocol for cancer to deal with it was cut/burn, right? And burn meaning, use chemo. Back then, we had big boom boxes and Walkmen, and you were lucky if your computer got on the internet in 25 to 30 minutes. Now we have cell phones you could stream entire movies to. We have satellites in space that could read the tag on the back of your underwear. But if you look at cancer protocols, the health protocols for dealing with cancer, what do you have? Cut, slash, burn. Still the same thing. Why has there been no advancement in 20 years with all the money that's been dumped cancer funding and cancer research? My mother died of lung cancer 10 years ago. And I think that if I had the knowledge about cannabis then that I do now, I would have at least had a fighting chance to help her out. It might not have helped. It might have only slowed it down, but at least she would have had a better chance. The only thing she was ever on was chemo, and I watched it slowly kill her. And again, Sierra, you're an amazing mother for having the courage to stand up, and not only stand up and then have to deal with the CPS being called on you numerous times, but still have the courage in the face of all that to continue because of the love for your child. You're just an amazing mother. You really are. And again, you're an example to parents out there. They should take a note from you. They really should. And I also agree with that there's a lot of people getting screwed with the bills that they're passing, that certain cannabis oil is okay as long as it doesn't have any THC in it. Well, why? Why are we stuck on this? Why are we stuck on, oh my God, it's got THC? The person might get high. Oh my God, Sierra, they might feel a bit of euphoria for 20 minutes. God forbid. It's ridiculous. I think the biggest two problems with cannabis legalization and cannabis oil and health and everything, the two biggest things that stand in the way are ignorance on the subject and big pharma.
I agree, and that's probably, the number 2 question that I get asked. And unfortunately, the number 1 is, well, how does Landon smoke it? I look at them in the most ridiculous way, and I'm just thinking to myself, do you really think that I could have taught a 2-year-old to smoke weed? I can't even teach him to blow his nose, properly, much less here, Landon, let me, light the bong for you. People are so uneducated about cannabis oil and about just the way that we're doing things. And that's the number 2 question is, well, does it get high from it? And I always respond with, do you think he gets high off Oxycontin? Do you think he gets high off of morphine? Ativan, which is a sister to Xanax, and Landon was on that as well. Landon was so high off of Oxycontin and morphine that he couldn't even talk. And it gave him such bad anxiety that he had to be on anxiety medication. A sister to Xanax. You're telling me that my 2-year-old has so much anxiety that he needs, a step down from Xanax?
Wait. They gave him Ativan when he was 2 years old?
Yes.
Whoa.
I know kids right now that are younger than Landon. Landon's 4 right now, but I know kids right now that are epileptic that are 2 that they're given Ativan. Or they're given phenobarbital or something like that. I really don't think that people understand when we resorted to cannabis, what our children have been through and what narcotics they've been on thus far. And let me tell you that marijuana is nothing compared to Oxycontin or to morphine or to Ativan. It's just not. Landon would pick his skin off. He would be so anxious from those narcotics. And the Ativan didn't help. It would just make him pass out. Landon was so loaded all the time that literally all he did was lay lifeless and vomit. At night, the dose was even higher to help him, quote-unquote, sleep. I would be holding my lifeless 2-year-old's body over a trash can while he's vomiting in his sleep. I didn't sleep for I can't even tell you how long because I was so afraid that he was going to vomit and die in his sleep. And he was so high that he would never even know. And it could have happened, thank God that it didn't. And so I always tell people, do you even understand what they give to our children? And they give it to them like candy. Landon gets liquid morphine like candy. He has a standing order. Even now, every time I take Landon in, every shirt that I have now, that's a Team Landon shirt, has a giant pot leaf on it, okay? I go with Landon to force chemo every time with my Team Landon on with a giant pot leaf, that says no to narcotics or whatever it says. And they're like, oh, we see that he's due for a refill on morphine, Oxycontin, Ativan, promethazine. Goes through the whole list. After all this time, they're still so ready to hand that shit out to him like candy. Not even, like, he has no issues right now, no pain, no anything. But if I told them that I wanted it for Landon, they would give it to me. I mean, how sad is that? But as soon as I bring up the word cannabis, oh my goodness, everybody loses their mind. Like, I'm over here, you know, trying to shoot my kid up with heroin or something. Like, it doesn't even make sense that people are so okay with these oxycons and morphines and fentanyl and phenobarbital, but yet marijuana is such a big deal that to some people, I'm not even kidding, some people have let their children die, even after they've heard of cannabis, because they just couldn't open their mind far enough to be willing to say, hey guys, let's look into cannabis, to their husband, their wife, whoever. And, you know, how sad is that that's how we are as a nation, that's how brainwashed we are, that we would rather allow our children to suffer, be cut on, be tortured, and then possibly, and a lot of times, die before we're ever willing to consider cannabis. When is it going to get to the point that everybody, not just me, not just the other canna moms that I'm friends with, that all of us, that we don't care anymore what people say, what doctors have to say, and what, you know, America as a whole has to say, that we're not going to poison our kids anymore, that we're not going to give them narcotics, and that we're not going to put up with it. You know, that's it. You know, I've had to put my foot down so many times because they want to give Landon morphine or fentanyl or something while we're at treatment. Why is it that they're so ready to hand those drugs out, yet I had to jump through 50 hoops to get my child a medical marijuana card?
And if you think about it, like you said, they treat you like you're trying to shoot your kid up with heroin. They already are. They're giving him morphine. It's not too far off. So,
exactly.
I mean, who's really the danger to your child? Them or you? I say them.
I guess that's, you know, where it's at right now is they are endangering my child's life. Every time I take him in there, every time they want to do this procedure or check these levels to make sure he's cancer-free, you know, they're giving him something. Like, he just had a procedure done last week. They were doing a bone marrow draw to ensure that he's still cancer-free, and they gave him fentanyl. Well, he was sick for 3 days off of that. Fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine. And, of course, it was IV, so you're exactly right. It is shooting them up. That's exactly what it is. I don't care what anybody wants to say. If you're doing something intravenously, that means that you're shooting it up. I asked them specifically not to give him anything, that I had it taken care of with the cannabis, and they still did it. And because of that, Landon was ill for 3 days. Why is nobody outraged about that? You know, why is nobody pissed off calling that hospital that they could have possibly overdosed my child because he's not used to narcotics, and they gave him one of the strongest narcotics out there? Yet nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. But if I post a picture of Landon with like a pot brownie or something like that, oh, good gravy. I get reported, and, you know, people are sending me messages about it. Like, I can't believe that you would post a picture like that. But I could post a picture with Landon in the hospital and a nurse directly take the picture at the time that she's giving him fentanyl or whatever, and nobody would care. Why is that?
We live in bizarro world. We really do. I mean, things are totally backwards. You know, they can shoot your son up with hardcore, just hardcore medications, but yet a plant that grows naturally in the ground makes them go, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it really is. At this point, 2014, the level of ignorance just shouldn't be what it is.
I agree. You know, that's 100% true. It should not be. And, you know, it should not be that parents are forced to uproot their whole lives and move to Colorado not knowing anybody or anything here, and then you're stuck here. You know, most parents that come here, they don't leave because they're so afraid of what would happen. You know, I only speak for myself, you know, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion and their own way of doing things. I personally don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what anybody has to say. And I'm going to take my son to visit his family, to visit his grandparents. I just took my son to the beach in Florida. My child is done not being forced to not live his life because of them. He is going to live his life now. He's going to have fun doing it. And I just, oh my gosh, I pray that day never comes, but if the day ever does come that somebody gives me a hard time for traveling with his medications, God have mercy on them, because it's not like I'm traveling with pounds of weed. You're traveling with the concentrated cannabis oil and a sick child. Like, who in their right mind would give you a hard time? And I've taken Landon to 7 states, and 4 of them were illegal, and I've never had a problem with it. But a lot of people don't, and they're unwilling to do so. And so they're stuck here with no family, no friends, no anything. But if they were to stay home and have their child on narcotics, they would be allowed to have everything. Same thing with veterans. I know veterans that are coming here, chronic pain, coming to Colorado because they don't want to be on drugs anymore. Because when you're on drugs, you're not the same person. You're just not. I think we can all agree with that. And they're tired of that. They want to live their life, but they don't want to have to live it in pain or, in suffering. It's just the amount of stories that I hear, it's just so sad. And thank God we all understand each other's plight, and we've, kind of formed a little family here, a little community that we all, take care of each other and do play dates and things like that. But something needs to change, and it needs to change soon. There's children dying all across the United States that are waiting for cannabis to be legalized. There is children all across the United States right now that are being given morphine, OxyContin, Ativan, fentanyl, all of those dangerous narcotics that I have spoken of. They're giving them to them right now as we speak. It's about nighttime, night shift for the nurses. Yep, all the kids are getting their dose of narcotics right now. When is it going to change that we're compassionate and that we want to invest in our children and not have them go through something as terrible as a cancer diagnosis, and then also have to worry about, being a recovering addict when they're, barely 5, 6, and 7 years old? The amount of things that they are forcing upon these children is just horrific. And like I said, if we don't all stand up and stand together, then nothing's going to change. I think we've all seen what social media can do. We've all seen what, protests with large amount of people can do. That lady just got Subway to change their entire, bread recipe because enough people shared her status about yoga mats and Subway bread. The things that we could do if we all stuck together, it shouldn't even be this way. Let's just put it that way. If everybody would just stand together, we would all have everything that we need for our sick children.
Well said. I agree 100%. Like I said, you see, ladies and gentlemen, why I keep saying that Sierra is an example to other parents. She's just an amazing, amazing woman and an amazing mother. I know that you don't have much time, so I have a couple more things I want to pick your brain about, and then I'll let you go. You were talking about your recent visit to Florida. I know you came down here to speak to lawmakers about what you've been going through and what your son goes through and about cannabis oil. Who did you speak to, and then how were you received by those people?
We were asked by Mo Barnhart, which is Dahlia's mom. If y'all don't know Dahlia, you should. Her story is on DahliaStrong.org, and she's a little girl fighting brain cancer, like I said. And, lots of twists in her story as well. Her mom would be another good guest to have. She cannot take pain medication because it causes her to stop breathing. And so she's had literally brain surgeries and not been able to have anything for the pain because it is it's such a terrible drug. Oh my gosh. So her mother has brought her here, through blood, sweat, and tears, just like us. And she's also a single mom. Please check out their website at DahliaStrong.org. That's DAHLIA strong.org. And she called and asked me, she is actually from Florida, called and asked me if I would go down there with her to speak with these people and to meet parents there that had questions about cannabis and taken from Michigan, actually. No child left behind. And we're taking it a step farther, and we've decided to call it No Patient Left Behind. Nobody should be writing bills that is leaving out the majority of people that need the medication that they're writing the bill for. That doesn't even make sense. Anyway, so we went down there to help speak with people and to just educate on whole plant and, that our children can be on THC and not be on our couches eating potato chips. Landon was running circles around these people. And, they would ask me, and he's on THC, and I would tell them he's on a very high dose of THC, and he is just fine. If he was on morphine right now, he would not be acting this way. He would be out of it. He would be loopy, etc. We were fortunate enough to go to the University of Tampa, where they had the second annual debate on the legalization of marijuana. And, amazing. That was just an amazing debate. And, oh, my gosh, you'll have to forgive me. I'm terrible with names. But, the men that were there were very kind to us. We did a lot of news interviews. I know one of them is the head of Normal. And they were very nice. I think that until you bring the children to them and that they can see your child, that really it's just like looking at someone through a computer screen. You just scroll on by. Like, you have a moment where you connect with that picture and you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, but then you just scroll on by. And everybody knows what I'm talking about, even though that sounds terrible. We all know that is the truth. That's just, we've been desensitized as a nation, to where we just don't want to get involved. Oh, just keep scrolling. If it doesn't affect my life personally, then I don't need to worry about it. And unfortunately, I was the same way until my child got sick. And, if I could go back in time, there's so many things that I would do differently for Landon. But, of course, that's neither here nor there. And so now we're just trying to help people to not have to go through what we've been through. So going to Florida was really just an awesome experience. MagicalButter.com sponsored and paid for our trip down there, treated us amazingly. Oh, my goodness. And we were able to meet with some people. Mo would be a good person to have on here on this show to talk about that. She really keeps up with all of the political people and everything. I'm more of a patient person, and I could tell you the names of all the children I met while I was there, but probably not the legislators and stuff.
Did the legislators actually listen to what you all had to say, or do you think it went in one ear and out the other?
It's always hard to be able to tell how somebody's receiving something, because when you're right there in front of them with your sick child right there, the before pictures of my child, and then, obviously Landon now, and Dahlia, is still looks, like a cancer patient, no hair, very pale. Of course they're going to feel for us and listen intently, but it's what they do when we leave that room, when we walk out of that door. That's what really shows us, did they really listen? Did they hear our story? Did they receive our story? And right now there's both bills are going through, a CBD only and a full medical marijuana bill. So that's confusing right there in itself. I really hope that they do the right thing in Florida. I hope that everybody comes out that lives in Florida and votes yes on 2. Number 2 is going to just help so many people, and all it takes is a little bit of time out of your day to go and vote in November. And, we're all over Facebook with our yes on 2 signs, and, we are really pulling for the people of Florida. We really hope that the legislators and the lawmakers there in Florida will make the right decision for everybody, and not, like I said, for just a select few of people that are going to benefit. I hope that they will make the right decision for people that have served our country in order for them to make that decision for us. So really it's a wait and see type thing. I mean, like I said, it always seems like they're receiving you when you're there. It seemed like CNN was all aboard until the day that I got the email saying that they cut Landon's piece. Like, I was shocked, but I'm sure that they weren't, you know what I mean? Because they knew what was going on the other side of things that I'll never know. So, the Canna Moms, we are going to stand united, and we're actually planning on going back to Florida soon to help, just bring more awareness to Yes on 2 and to the upcoming vote in November. And, we got to meet Kathy Jordan, and that was just an awesome experience for me. She also goes out of her way to help fight for everyone. We got to meet a lot of awesome people out there. And I can't wait to go back. And if anybody in Florida, if you're listening, please get out there in November and vote. This is very important, and without every one of us standing together, it's not going to happen. So please, if you see anybody supporting, the medical marijuana bill or doing events, please try to attend, because that's really where it's at, is community support, and that's what we need, is for the community to support us and support us in our decision to treat our sick children with cannabis.
Yeah, I agree. I live down here in Florida myself. I live in South Florida. And it would benefit everybody down here. I mean, it would benefit economically. It would behoove everybody in the state that lives here to use it, because a good portion of the state is older people that come down here to retire. And surprising to many people, the baby boomer generation is actually the fastest growing generation or group of individuals that is using cannabis to help with medical conditions. So there is hope. And when you guys come down here, you're going to have to let me know ahead of time when you're coming down, Sierra. I'll come up and I'll cover the whatever you guys are doing. I'll interview everybody. I'll give you guys as much attention. And I agree. I think everybody in Florida has to come together on this and stand their ground. And I think it should be the full medical marijuana bill, not some only for certain individuals type bill. That doesn't serve anybody at all. It doesn't help anybody at all. I think, again, the biggest two hurdles is Big Pharma and ignorance. And if we can get through, Big Pharma we can take on together, but we have to get past that ignorance first. And I actually see a lot of people getting past that ignorance, but it doesn't surprise me that your son's story was cut by CNN. It doesn't. I know the way CNN works, and honestly, if they were to air on CNN that cannabis cures cancer, well, you can't do that. How much money is made by keeping cancer, quote unquote, uncurable? How much money, how much money is donated each year, right? So,
and that's the thing is, like you were saying, I learned throughout Landon's journey just about everything there was to know about the studies that have been going on for childhood leukemia. I was one of the times I was reported to CPS was for refusing an increase in steroids. Steroids make Landon very aggressive, very angry, and very violent, but they're a huge part of the treatment for leukemia. I had to go so far as to take Landon to a completely different oncologist in a different state to speak with him about Landon's, adverse effects to steroids. And it was there that I learned that there hasn't even been very many studies done on childhood leukemia and the treatment in, like you said, roughly 20 years. And that even back then they knew that steroids were not very effective considering the side effects, bone death, aggression, weight gain, et cetera, that it was giving to these children. The psychological issues that steroids cause is just, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. So after have gone, across states to this different doctor, I come back with papers, medical studies, showing that the steroids were indeed not even necessary. They were not a vital part of treatment. But while I was gone, they reported me to CPS for refusing that increase in steroids, and they said that it was vital for Landon's treatment. Well, I come back with these medical studies, and of course they had notes, and the doctor was kind enough to call this hospital and give them his opinion on steroids, and he's one of the oldest practicing oncologists today. So, of course, he has some weight in the situation. So they were kind enough to call up there on our behalf and talk to them, and I got the steroids completely omitted, completely 100% taken out of Landon's treatment plan for the next 3 years. But yet they were willing to go so far as to report me to CPS because I refused to increase them, when in fact I proved that they weren't even necessary. I think the amount of over-medicating that's going on in America is completely out of hand. Completely out of hand. And I could do a whole segment just on that, goodness. But for my child, it's taken more than me just standing up and saying, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. I've actually had to fight. And by fight, I mean I've had to bust my ass, take us to different states, talk to different doctors, all to find out that my gut feeling was right in the first place. And then, of course, once I bring in the big guns, then they're like, okay, well, we'll omit the steroids. But yet they were willing to go as far as to report me to CPS because I refused it. It makes absolutely zero sense why we're doing this. Each year in the United States, approximately 13,500 children are diagnosed with cancer. That's more than a classroom of children every single day. 1 out of every 300 males and 1 out of every 333 females in America will develop some type of cancer before their 20th birthday. This year and every year, more than 40,000 children undergo treatment for cancer. 40,000, and 20% of them will die from their disease, a secondary cancer caused by chemotherapy, or complications from treatment, such as catching a virus, when their immune system is so low. And that's why I get so upset about them trying to force this treatment on myself and my son for, the next 2.5 years. Cancer kills 7 kids in the United States every day. 7 every single day. They're saying that most causes for pediatric cancers remain a mystery and that they cannot be prevented. And I think that we all know that this is a lie, that it's what we're feeding our children, what we're giving our children in vaccines and everything else. And in my opinion, it's 100% preventable. Childhood cancer as a whole, and that means brain cancer, liver cancer, heart cancer, and leukemia included, it only gets less than 4% of all funding for cancer research. Out of all the billions of dollars that the breast cancer people and CureSearch and everywhere else that, people want you to buy a bracelet or donate $1 or sign a little shamrock at the gas station or whatever it is, how much of that money is going to our children? Less than 4%. They're not researching it as much as they should be. And after all of these years, why has nothing changed in the treatment plan? Why are so many children still dying? Why are so many children dying, not from cancer, but from chemotherapy, from radiation? It makes absolutely no sense the way that we're doing things, giving the technology that we have available to us in 2014. And I refuse to let my child be practiced on anymore. I think anybody can tell you, if you ask any doctor, it's called practicing medicine. It's not a science. They're practicing. Well, I'm sorry, but Sierra is tired of them practicing on Landon. I've had enough, and my child is happy and healthy. So should I not be afforded those rights as an American and just as a general human being to not give my child toxic poison medication if he does not have a cancer cell in his body and hasn't for over a year? Why is it that in 2014, many of us are being bullied by our doctors or our children's doctors to increase toxic medication? And if you don't, then, you're going to face the consequences. Like, who gave these doctors authority over us? I can't tell you guys the amount of times I've had to remind Landon's doctors that they work for me. They're not paying my bills. I'm paying theirs. They're on my time, and this is my child, not case number whatever, and they're going to give it the attention it deserves. Unfortunately, we've lost a couple of doctors because I have no problem telling them what they're doing wrong. And it just goes to show you that so many people have just sat back and let them do whatever they want to these children in the name of treatment, that they think that that's the way it should be, that we shouldn't question everything that they say or every increase of medication, and that we shouldn't question what's going to happen to my child 5-10 years after they take these medications. A lot of people don't realize that 70% of children that complete childhood leukemia treatment have I think it's 60% or higher chance of contracting another cancer or tumor as a direct result of chemotherapy. Why are we giving our children drugs for cancer treatment that could in fact cause them to have cancer? That makes absolutely no sense. Yet here we are, on this crazy cycle of life, and Landon and I can't get out of it. No matter what we do, we cannot say, thank you so much, we're done. Check us out. Take us off your mailing list. That's it. We're done with you guys. why is it that Landon cannot be allowed to do an effective choice of treatment? Now, I understand that there have been people before us that have made very terrible decisions and have, oh, this dandelion's going to cure my child, or, oh, this, praying, whoever they pray to is going to cure my child, and then their child dies. I understand why the laws are there. I also understand that if you have an effective treatment, that you have that right to pursue it, that you are not made in any way, shape, or form to be practiced on. So why are our children any different? Our children are human beings. Just because they're not adults and they can't tell you that they don't want that chemotherapy does not mean that they don't want it. I've had doctors literally tell me, well, if Landon was old enough to say, then he would tell you he wants chemotherapy. And they firmly believe it. That's where we're at. They firmly believe that chemotherapy is the only cure or treatment for cancer. We've got to educate people. We've got to get more videos out there, more documentaries. More people need to start sharing these stories of actual documented, cases of cannabis curing cancer or any other ailment. We've got to start being taken seriously. People have got to stop posting pictures of them with their 10-foot bong and then expect a senator to take anything they say seriously. We have got to come off as professional people. Most of us are parents. That before this, we would have never dreamed of giving our child cannabis, but it's helping our children. It's saving our children. So now if we can just get all of the cannabis community behind us, imagine what we could accomplish. I mean, every state would have been legalized by now if every single cannabis user out there would stand behind us as parents trying to treat our terminally ill children. But instead, they're off at, Hemp Fest and the DAP Fest and this and that. Why is nobody coming out and making events solely for parents to come and educate people on their child's illness and how they're treating it with cannabis, what forms, what dosages, etc.? Why are there no festivals like that going on? Because mainly the people that are involved in the cannabis industry want to use it recreationally, or they want to make profit off of that. And that's all good and well. But like I said, the majority of us that need this plant, we've already been through the medical system so many times with our children that we don't have millions to give people for a cure. We need people like the Stanleys who are growing a strain that's organic, that all of their strains are organic. They're grown very controlled. There's no pesticides, no mold, no anything. Every batch is tested. If everybody would start doing that, then I think less people would have to move to Colorado.
I totally agree. Everybody needs to get together and get their act together. And like the full legalization crowd, like I'm for full legalization, but I agree. There's this huge divide between them and the medical marijuana crowd or medical cannabis crowd. And I think if everybody just realizes that no one is going to have any type of cannabis freedom without everybody pitching in and pushing for this. No one aspect of it is going to get it. The medical group ain't going to get it by themselves, and the recreational group isn't going to get it by themselves. Now, if everybody comes together and tries to educate people properly, and I agree, there should be between now and November here in Florida alone, people should be putting events together and make it free. Don't charge for it. You make it free and invite everybody to come in, the general public, where you can allow mothers like yourself and others to speak to the general public about cannabis and about the health benefits of it. Allow others to come in. If the legalization crowd wants to come in, have them come in and speak about all the benefits tax-wise and everything else, aside just from the health. If everybody came together and just started showing the general public, again, responsibly, I agree, you don't want to be standing next to a 10-foot bong doing hits. Look, I've been to Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam. It's awesome, okay? But you know what? We're not there yet, okay? We're not where you can have that in a building somewhere or an event like that yet. We're still, 200 years in the past. And if we're going to get the attention of these people like we need to and have them take us seriously, and that is a bunch of pot-smoking hippies, we need to do things properly. I completely concur with you. I mean, that's just one of the most important things. We all need to come together and do it responsibly. And I think then, and only then, will we actually get this passed. And if you can get it passed down here in a conservative state, in a conservative southern state, believe me, if Florida, if it passes here, it would be like a dam breaking for all these other southern states. And imagine how many people's lives will be changed for the better. I mean, this is ridiculous. Again, it's ignorance and big pharma are the two biggest things. And of course, you also have the war on drugs, but a lot of that is fed off of people's ignorance. So I always use the war. I list the war on drugs kind of as a side caveat to the ignorance.
Yes, it's, that's another thing that needs to change is why are we putting people in prison, for cannabis and all of, just nonviolent offenses, but yet people are out there selling, Oxycontins and things like that. And people are dying, and nobody is raising a fuss about it. Florida is a conservative state, and they are very, cautious about medical marijuana. But Florida is also the pain pill place of the United States. Florida has more pain pills coming in and out of there than any other state, more pain pill addiction. And do you really not think that if you maybe legalize cannabis, that a lot of people would stop using pain pills and it would put an end to this epidemic of Oxycontin users? It's all of these things that we have to consider when looking at why is cannabis still illegal? Why are they trying to regulate it and tax it so ridiculously high when I can pick up Landon's Oxycontin prescription for $3 for a month supply? I could pick up a prescription of Oxycontin for myself for $3 for a month supply. I'm paying $2,000 a month for cannabis oil for Landon. Why is it that it's okay for me to put my child in public school on Xanax or Oxycontin or morphine or Adderall or whatever, which is synthetic methamphetamine, and the nurses will give it to them all day? But yet, most parents that I talk to are terrified to tell their schools that their child is using cannabis for their ailments because they know they won't give it to them, and they might even expel them. It's just like you said, it's so backwards that it makes my brain hurt, honestly, to even just try to understand how things got the way they were. And, honestly, I can say the biggest reason of how it got this way is because people kept turning a blind eye. Oh, well, that doesn't affect me. So that issue doesn't matter. As long as it's not affecting me in my personal life, then it really doesn't matter. Now, years down the road, it's affecting everybody. Everything that was put off and turned the blind eye to, like when, Monsanto started up and GMOs and, reproducing chickens in 30 days instead of, 80 days. Why is it now that people are all of a sudden so fed up with it? Because now we've realized that we've let it go too far. Are all states going to legalize marijuana? I hope so. But if they don't, what about the children in those states that are dying, that are suffering? That need cannabis oil right now, not in 10 years. It's sad that our government's willing to let its own people, who pays their salaries, might I add, suffer in such terrible ways and be experimented on through these cancer treatments in such terrible ways. The amount of suffering and torturous things that I've seen going to those children's hospitals would make a grown man cry. I mean, it is terrible what we are doing to our children in the name of treatment. And the only way that it's going to change, like I said, is if we all stand together and support each other and stop nitpicking at people in the cannabis community and literally all stand together and not back down. And, I hope and pray every day that everybody wakes up tomorrow and realizes that and starts doing it. It's very tiring when you're on the front lines, with your fellow warriors, and you look back and there's nobody behind you, and you're just, out there seemingly fighting for everyone, but yet everybody wants it legalized. Everybody wants the benefit of it, but nobody wants to show up and do the work. So, that's the only thing that's really disheartening for us is when we do have events like that. There should have been hundreds of people that came to those events. Thousands of people in Florida are cannabis users. You can't tell me that they're not. Why was there only like 200 people at that debate, at the legalization debate? If we don't start showing up for each other and supporting each other, then we're going to keep getting what we're getting, which is nowhere. And honestly, I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of seeing children suffer. And I just wish that everybody else would hurry up and get as tired as I am so that we can get things done.
Again, well said, and I wholeheartedly agree. I had no idea, like, as an individual myself, as a broadcaster, as a journalist, I had no idea that the event was even going on. And that's another thing, is a lot of these groups or individuals, whoever put these events on, they don't really know how to do good PR. And that's another problem. I think a lot of times they're intimidated because of the subject. I think that's another thing. People are kind of, they want to get the information out there, but at the same time, because it's cannabis and they're in Florida, which is a heavy law enforcement state, I think people are sometimes intimidated in how they could present the information. Or you could also have the other side of the coin where people refuse to advertise for it too. But I think one of the biggest hurdles they have to overcome is I think everybody needs to come together and have some sort of organization in this state. And I mean everybody that uses cannabis, whether it's medical, recreational, it does not matter. Everybody needs to come together, and we need to have some cohesion, and we need to work out a system so that everybody can be notified. We need to put on another one of these events, and we need to have maybe 2 of them before November here in Florida. And I think everybody needs to be notified of it. Get the word out more to your readers, your listeners, whatever, and get everybody out there. Get the general public out. And, of course, it has to be free. Everybody has to be willing to donate time and stuff and figure out how we can cover costs and maybe get donations to do it. I mean, this can be done. But you can't charge an admission fee or else the general public is not going to show up. And the whole point is to get the general public to show up so you can educate them. So you can't charge them, right?
See, and that's, and that's the thing that, we've kind of started doing as Canna Moms is, the 2 moms in Florida, Giselle and Renee, with the epileptic children, and then myself and Mariah, we've, kind of made this little team where we can bring our contacts together, bring our fan bases on Facebook together, and share the same message amongst all 4 of our children's fan pages, and then we're reaching 4 times more people than we would by ourselves. They have contacts in Florida, obviously, that I don't. I have contacts in Colorado. If we can just get everybody to somehow, I don't know, we need like the bat phone, we need like the cannabis phone. And if we're coming to your state, we call the cannabis phone. Hey, we need press for this. We need this for that. We need a place to have it. And immediately have people set up in those states to help organize and get that going. Because honestly, I can't organize something from here. I have so much going on. But I would love to come to every state and talk and share Landon's story and share his videos and his, CNN footage, and just to show people that this is a real thing, that it is really working. And the more parents we add to our little, group of Canna Moms, then the stronger and the bigger we'll get, and the more stories we'll have covering different illnesses. So when we go to these different states to speak to the public, we're appealing to everyone. And I think you're exactly right. It's important. We've got to get PR. We've got to get on top of getting, advertising, getting it out to the general public. People have got to step up in order to do that. That's the only way that that's going to happen is if people step up that are willing to put in the work and to help us, get things accomplished.
I agree, and it would be really simple. And if every state started to do this, it'd be amazing the information that could be given and passed out to the general public, and how many people's lives could be changed. Just millions of people's lives could be changed for the better across this country. I mean, it would literally be making a positive change, and you guys are already doing it. And I think that's a great idea. The cannabis phone, like the bat phone. I mean, that's a great idea. It might sound silly, but it's not. It's an ingenious thing that you just came up with. I mean, think about it. If each state had like an 800 number where you could call and like, hey, what's going on in that state? I'm coming to that state. Are there any events? Or there is an event in the state, and there's a number that everybody could call to find out when it was going to be, and where and how to get there, whatever. And then they could bring their friends, their family. They could invite their neighbors, whatever. What you're talking about is just, it's so simple, yet for some reason we can't seem to get it done. And a lot of that is done on purpose. Remember, I call them the powers that shouldn't be. They do things like keeping everybody separated on purpose. That way people don't get together. But you know what? It's coming to a point where 2014, people are starting to realize that they don't need, the permission from whoever to take care. Like you said, you're not going to ask for permission to keep your son safe and healthy. You're going to do it. And you know what? That's your job as his mother. And again, I commend you for doing what you should be doing as a parent. I mean, so many parents are afraid to do what you're doing, Sierra, and it is just amazing. You are really an amazing mother and an example to all these other parents out there as to what they should be doing. So, Sierra, I know I got a few short minutes with you left, and I really thank you for all your time tonight. And again, just the courage that you show is amazing. Anything that you would like to plug, website, Twitter, Facebook, and any way that if anybody out there wants to help you, donate to you, whatever, how can they get in touch with you or donate to you?
So Landon is on Facebook, and his page is Offer Hope for Landon. He also has a website that's offerhopeforlandon.com, and his Twitter is Hope for Landon, all one word. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm sorry that I have to cut it short. Mommy duties called. I really encourage everyone to check out on Facebook, Brandon the Brave, BRANDEN, Brandon the Brave, Prayers for Bruno, BRUNO, Prayers for Bruno, and DahliaStrong.org. Her mother has actually even written a law, and it's called Dahlia's Law. And I would just really encourage everyone to check out these children's stories. They're all canna cuties, and I mean, they're all just going through such a struggle. The amount of determination and will to live in these children is unlike anything that I've ever seen. I'm so blessed to know their mothers. And, again, thank you so much for having us. And I really hope that, by us sharing our stories and our children's stories and our struggles and the things that we are going through, that it will help future generations and future children and parents to maybe see the light a little bit sooner than we did, and that their children won't have to suffer as much, that they'll turn to cannabis before narcotics and before mental, debilitating drugs that these doctors are pushing on our children. So again, Team Landon really thanks you guys. If anybody wants to support Team Landon, he has Landon's Closet, where for your donation you can get Team Landon gear, and that is on offerhopeforlandon.com as well.
Awesome. Sierra, thank you so much for everything you do for your son, being an awesome mom and inspiration. And thank you for having the courage to come down here and talk to the lawmakers and the people down here in the state of Florida and try to, make a better life for people here. I mean, you don't live here. You live in Colorado, and yet you traveled here to help people you don't even know have a better life. I mean, you got to know some of the mothers, but your goal isn't just to help one individual or one child. You're trying to help everybody. I mean, veterans, old, young, the children. I just, as a resident of the state of Florida, I thank you. You have tremendous courage. You're just an awesome human being. You're a great mom. And you've inspired me to push for all the groups down here, the cannabis groups in Florida, to come together and use their brains on this and get this passed and set an example for all the other southern states and all the states in general on how it should be done. Thank you so much for coming on, Sierra.
No, thank you. And I'm just another person, and I'm just trying to do the best by my son. And now that I have this information, I can't, in good faith, not share it with everyone in hopes of saving other children. So, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the kind words. That's really what keeps me going is, everybody's like, oh, you're so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this, and together we will do this. And, let people know in any state, no matter what state you're in, if you need help with anything, if you have questions, please feel free to contact me. My email address is very simple. It's teamlandon@yahoo.com. Again, teamlandon@yahoo.com. And we are willing to stand beside anybody that needs help. And, again, thank you so much for, just covering our story. And, we hope to see everybody soon.
Team Landon, ladies and gentlemen. Support Team Landon, support Sierra and Landon Riddle. Just an amazing, amazing lady. Sarah, thank you so much for your time and everything. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Have a good night.
There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. Sierra Riddle. As I said in the intro to tonight's broadcast, she is an amazing lady, an amazing mom, and an example to other parents out there. And I'm actually... as I said, I'm going to be devoting a lot more time to the Canna moms. Excuse me, my throat's a little dry. I'm going to be devoting a lot more time to the Canna moms. I'm going to be giving 2 hours to each of these moms. I have to email the other mothers. I wanted to make sure I got Sierra's interview done and taken care of properly and aired for you guys, and then I'm going to go on to each of the other ones and set up the other interviews, and I'm going to bring their stories to light. I want you all to hear what these ladies have to say. I want you to hear the truth. I want you to hear the evidence. And not just you, but the people that hear the archives later on down the road. This is the stuff that the mainstream media is not telling you. They'll maybe only tell you some of the stories. But look, Landon's story was cut not once, but twice from the weed documentary series that CNN's been putting on. Gee, I wonder why. As I said earlier, I wonder what all-powerful lobby would have enough influence and money to make sure that certain things weren't mentioned, like cancer being cured by cannabis, because you heard Sierra say that they told her that they might not even bring up cannabis at all, or cancer being cured by cannabis at all. Can you answer why that makes any sense? With cancer being such an epidemic and all, I know they don't use that word. 2 people get the flu and it's a pandemic, but there's millions of people around the world getting cancer now that it's like 1 in 3 or something like that. Ridiculously high rate of cancer, but no, there's not an epidemic. Right. Someone sneezes, though, and oh my God, everybody needs forced injections. So what powerful lobby would not want cancer to be cured? Well, there's a few of them. And I could even put my conspiratorial hat on if I wanted to and go down that rabbit hole, as it were. But I think everybody listening has a pretty good idea as to why. There's a multitude of reasons why they wouldn't want it talked about. How much money is made not curing cancer? How much money is made from all those donations every year? Where does it all go? How does it get spent? Do you see the ledgers? Do you get an expense report printed out and mailed to you every month? I know I don't. So where does all that money go? The technology from 20 years ago, 25 years ago, people had boom boxes and tape recorders. And now we're walking around with cell phones that have the equivalent of a camcorder, VCR, computer, all this rolled into one, telephone, all rolled into this little device that fits in your pocket. That would have been considered science fiction 20 years ago. Yet the protocols for cancer are still the same. What? Not even talking about cannabis curing cancer? Still the same. It's time we grow up about this subject. Okay? Really. It's 2014. I believe it's time that we grew up and faced facts. We've been lied to about many things. We can deal with that however we need to deal with it, but we need to move on from that fact and realize that, okay, we've been lied to, so what were we lied to about? Oh, well, this is important. Wow, this stuff can cure cancer. Let's spread this on. Screw CNN. We don't need CNN. Do we need Sanjay Gupta? No, we do not. Do we need any of them? No, we don't. We have each other. And it's time we all started realizing that. What do I tell you all the time, ladies and gentlemen? I say the solutions to our problems are an inside job, right? That's how I finish off every broadcast. So let's be our own solution. Start talking to your mother, your father, your friends, all these other groups. People in Florida, time to come together. Let's pass the full medical marijuana bill here in Florida and help sick people out. Children, veterans, old people, young people, everybody. Let's be the solution to our problem. Capiche? Good. We're out of time. I love you all. I'll see you all again live tomorrow night. As I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. I am out of here.